the f do I do this? Ah! Ha! Oh my god. Oh my god, I just shattered my f***ing funny bone. Oh my god, it's fine. It's fine. Oh, I can't feel my pinky. Technical difficulties. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome or welcome back. If you're new here or if you've never seen me before, first of all, lucky you. Second of all, my name's Emily. My handle on literally everything is mfunsbooks, and I yap excessively and very quickly about books all the time. It's like literally the only thing that I care about in this life. Mostly smutty ones, but you know, there are exceptions. This video is so incredibly exciting and also simultaneously so terrifying and nerve-wracking for me because I am a perfectionist to the highest order. Like I literally have clinical OCD and anxiety and whatever, about, you know, a cocktail. And I've made a lot of empty promises on this YouTube channel about consistent posting and all these video ideas that I had. Sorry, there was hair in my mouth. I have recorded so many videos on my phone that I have planned to edit and post to YouTube, and quite frankly, I just didn't feel comfortable putting them out into the world because they were garbage. They were garbage. I needed to find my groove with the whole social media thing and like what kind of camera I wanted, what kind of setup I wanted, what I was gonna prioritize in terms of what type of content I want to push out. Like when I say I am a noob at this, I mean I am a noob at this. I have no idea what I'm doing. I started my book talk a year ago as a fun little passion project. It blew up. Somehow. I still have probably like the most crippling imposter syndrome you will ever see in an individual ever in your entire life. But you know, here we are. We're doing it. We're doing the damn thing. But enough about me. We're all here to hear about books. I don't want to bore you to tears. Today we're doing a 2025 beginning of the year book tag, and I'm so excited because I have grown up religiously watching these on YouTube, and the fact that I'm like filming one and I'm gonna put it out on the internet for everybody to see is like slightly terrifying, but very exciting at the same time. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm treating this video as like a clean slate for my YouTube channel, a fresh start, if you will, because we need one desperately. But this way I can show you what you can expect from me this year, what kind of books I'm into. If you're into the same ones, you know what to do. This video is heavily inspired by Reread or Larissa. If you haven't seen her video yet, go watch it because then you can actually see what it looks like when somebody like knows what they're doing on here, because that's not gonna be me. But a lot of the questions that I'm gonna be answering and a lot of the concepts are very similar to hers. I just want to give like full inspiration and full hats off to her because I think she is such a beautiful person and a ray of sunshine and one of my idols just in general and on this platform. So without further ado, let's get into the 2025 book tag. Okay, question number one is how many books are you planning on reading in 2025? This year my reading goal is 75 books. Last year my goal was initially 50 and then I was really surpassing that, so I think I bumped it up to 60, and then I ended up reading 69. That wasn't intentional, but I do have the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old sometimes, so obviously I giggled about it. I am unfortunately not one of those bookish content creators that can just demolish 100 to 150 books in a year. I wish with every single fucking fiber of my being that I was, but I'm not. So we're aiming for what we can. And you know what? I think that like 70 books in a year is still a pretty damn good achievement. Or at least that's what I tell myself before bed every night to like make sure that I don't cry myself to sleep. You can only do so much, and 75 seems very attainable to me. If the stars align and I'm really excelling at that, maybe I'll even bump it up to 80, who knows? But right now my current reading goal is 75. Question number two, a book you're likely to reread this year. Well, I'm so happy you asked. If you weren't aware, Onyx Storm comes out on January 21st, which is 8 days from today when I'm filming, and I am so excited. I actually don't know if I've ever been more excited for anything in my entire life. This is my little collection of Fourth Wing books right here. This is Tarn, if you couldn't tell. And yeah, what about it? I did spend a stupid amount of money on this soft little sparkly jellycat dragon, but I would do it again. Actually, I might do it again because I want a bigger one to be able to cuddle with at night, so. Anywho, I am currently in the process of rereading Fourth Wing. I literally started it like a couple of days ago. Every time I re-enter this world, I forget just how insanely and utterly addicted I am to it, and I don't get how people hate it. I know reading is subjective. I know there's different opinions, but like, it's so good. I've read this book, I don't know how many times now. I think this is my fourth. Look at how many annotations are in here. This is psychotic. For my reread, I've literally been walking around my house with all 3 of these copies in my hands because these have like bonus chapters in them from Zayden's POV, and I'm reading those chapters after I read the chapter in the actual book this time, and it's so fun to experience everything from his point of view, like in the moment, and I love it with all my heart. This series this series. I will be rereading Iron Flame next. I was in the vast minority, it seems, of people who like actually adored this book and didn't see like really any flaws with it. Okay, that's a lie. I did see flaws with it, but like I was so obsessed with the characters and the story and the romance that I just didn't really care about any of the flaws, so there's a little bit of a distinction there. This is my signed edition. I won it in a game of Fourth Wing themed trivia at the midnight release party for Iron Flame last year, and it's like literally one of my prized possessions. I don't even let people touch this when they come to my house. And then this is my annotated copy. Please, please look. Who needs this many notes inside? Not me, but I seem to think I'm a genius and that I have like all these Easter eggs predicted and all these plot points that I'm gonna figure out before Onyx Storm, and in reality I'm gonna be wrong about every single one of them, but you know, it's fun. Another reread that I will be doing this year without a shadow of a doubt is Manacled. This is a fan fiction. This isn't a book. I bound this myself. I didn't sell it. I didn't buy it from anybody. I learned how to bind it myself. It's very illegal to do that with fan fiction. Okay, disclaimer. It's not very good, to be honest with you. Like, the book is a little bit bent. I still have to bind part 2 and part 3 because this book comes in 3 parts, and I very much plan on doing that, and we'll probably film a tutorial for bookbinding as well because that's gonna be really fun, discombobulated, and chaotic. But this fan fiction was picked up by a traditional publisher, and Senlin Yu is rewriting it without all the copyright elements of Harry Potter this year. It's gonna be called Alchemized, and I am so ready for it. I am so ready for it, but I'm also genuinely terrified because this is like 1,200 pages altogether, I think, with all 3 parts, and I know that there's gonna be so much cut out of it and I'm gonna be absolutely devastated. So before that happens and before the story like changes in my mind, I do want to reread the original fanfiction and experience it in all of its glory. I haven't really read it, I don't think, since the beginning of 2023, so I'm hoping like my little pea brain has forgotten a lot of the details and that I can like re-experience it semi for the first time again when I reread it. This is one of my favorite pieces of literature I've ever consumed in my entire life, and if you haven't read this fanfiction yet, go find a typeset online, download it to your Kindle, and read it for the love of God. Please, you don't even have to like Harry Potter, you just have to know base level information about the franchise. It is so devastating and sickening and amazing, and I am obsessed. This fanfiction obliterated me, and it wiped every expectation that I've ever had for a book or a male main character or a female main character completely clean off the board. All right. What are your top 3 priority reads on your 2025 TBR? Well, obviously we've already touched on Alchemized and Onyx Storm, so I don't really want to talk about those guys again, but those are my top 2 priority reads of 2025. I'm gonna try to talk about one that I'm not gonna answer in other questions. So I would say this one's definitely not in my like top 3 priority reads, but it's up there. I need to finish Babel by R.F. Kuang. I started this like a year and a half ago, I want to say. I think I started this in 2023 and I loved it. I did devour it up until the point that I got to. It was a little bit slow at times compared to the stuff that I usually read, obviously, but I think that this book is just such an important piece of literature, and I think R.F. Kuang is a mastermind, and I'm so ashamed of myself for DNFing this. I think I DNF'd it because I just had so much stuff going on in my life that wasn't book related that was really putting me into a little bit of a mental slump. You need to be all in for this when you're reading it. Maybe I'll try the audiobook, but this is like a very high priority read for me, as well as her novel coming out, I think in July, called Catabasis. I'm very excited for that one. So question number 4, what is the genre or subgenre that you're steering clear of this year? The original question in Larry's video was authors you're steering clear of this year. I usually, unless I really, really, really detest a book that I've read by an author, or if it's like all around just like garbage writing, but I just have a really hard time officially like counting somebody out for the count for good, because there's a lot of books by authors that I love that I haven't really vibed with. And I think to myself, I'm like, imagine if that was the first book you read by this author and then you never picked anything up by them again. I would never have experienced some of my favorite books. So I don't really like count authors out forever, ever, if that makes sense. But genres and subgenres, on the other hand, I have finally admitted to myself that I don't think I am a hockey romance girl. This year, unless I hear raving reviews from people that I trust with my life about a hockey book, I am not going to be reading one, because I am from Alberta, Canada, and I just have had enough hockey boy lingo in my life to like literally last me until the grave. Like, I don't ever need to hear it again. It's hard for me to fall in love with a male main character that just like says the type of shit that triggers a fight or flight response in me. So I will say though, I won't officially count it out forever, because I loved the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. The Deal, The Score, etc., etc. I loved those books. Maybe there's potential in the future, but I DNF'd Icebreaker, I DNF'd Collide, and I don't know if it's for me, guys. I don't know if it's for me. On the other side of that coin, something new you want to read this year, like new genres or tropes. These 2 books that I'm gonna talk about in this one are literally polar opposites. Like, you could not get more opposite than these 2 books I'm about to mention, okay? But number 1 is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I really want to try to actually successfully read a non-romance fiction book from start to finish and like it. I haven't done that since like we read To Kill a Mockingbird in high school and it was mandatory to the curriculum. So I said that I was gonna do it last year. I lied, I didn't do it. I'm really hoping that I can do it this year. We'll see. We'll see. On the opposite side of the spectrum from that, in terms of like new tropes I want to try, I really want to try Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. This is a monster romance and it's about like the Loch Ness Monster, like he's our main character. And if you've read Ice Planet Barbarians, I don't want to hear a single peep. My camera would die mid-sentence. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were talking about the Loch Ness Monster book that I want to read. I just think that Lana Ferguson writes such hilariously unhinged, spicy books, and I always have a good time when I read them, even if they're like not up my alley. I just think as somebody who grew up reading like Omegaverse fanfics on Wattpad, monster romance is not that out there for me, and I really am so morbidly curious. Like there's no other way about it. Like what do you think he does with those tentacles, you guys? I don't know, but I kind of want to find out. And if you know me and you're watching this and you don't read books, move along. We don't have to worry about what just came out of my mouth. What is a popular book or series that you want to read that you feel like you're missing out on? I am a fantasy romance vibe reader to my core. To my core, I value a swoon-worthy, sarcastic, hilarious, dark, morally ambiguous MMC more than I value like many things in this life, okay? And I haven't read the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy yet, and I quite frankly just think that that is unacceptable. I only have the first two, Guild and Glint, because hardcovers are expensive and I want to be able to collect all the hardcovers with this really gorgeous little like gold splattery design on the spines here. But I've heard that Slade, the male main character in this series, will like literally ruin all other male main characters for me, and I am sold. I hear that this book, the first one, is like one that you just have to get through for the sake of Oren's character development. This is like a King Midas retelling series, I believe, and she is one of his like gold prized possessions. And I think that she just gets honestly traumatized within an inch of her life in the first book from what I've heard, and then, you know, breaks out of her cage and becomes this sick ass female main character in the following books. And it is now completed. I think that the last book just came out, so I can officially start it and just binge the shit out of it, and I am most definitely gonna be reading this year, because how can I claim to be a fantasy romance booktuber, book talker, book content creator and not have read the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy yet? Oh my god, gotta stay hydrated when you talk 700 miles a minute, I guess. What are your top 5 most anticipated 2025 book releases? Okay, I picked top 5 because I can't make a decision, and top 1 was just too difficult for me. Number 1, I have to say, is Onyx Storm. That is just, that book has the power to do some things to me. I don't know if they're gonna be good things or bad things, but you might have to peel me off the floor when I'm done reading it. I don't know. Number 2 is book 2 to When the Moon Hatched, and it's supposed to be called The Ballad of Falling Dragons. When the Moon Hatched is this like very thick, very detailed romantasy that came out this year by Sarah A. Parker, and it was my favorite read of 2024. I was genuinely so obsessed with that book. It is over 700 pages long, and I read it twice in 5 days. If you're ever gonna take a fantasy romance book recommendation from me, please, for the love of God, for the love of everything that is holy, read When the Moon Hatched. These characters have entwined themselves into my goddamn DNA. I am so obsessed and I am so ready for The Ballad of Falling Dragons. You have no idea. It is gearing up to be one of the biggest who did this to you moments between the female main character and male main character you've ever seen in your life. Number 3 is Alchemized, and I've already talked about that one, okay? So I'm not going to again, but just trust me, it's gonna be so good. Number 4 is honestly, I think, Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. This is a traditional published version of another Hermione fanfiction called The Auction. All I know is that I think Hermione is literally bought by Draco in an auction, and that is the premise of this fanfic. I haven't even read the fanfic, but a lot of people who know that I love Manacled recommended The Auction to me, so I just think that the traditionally published version is gonna be good, and I love Julie Soto. Like, I read this one by Julie Soto last summer, and I absolutely loved it. I really like her writing style, I like the way she writes her characters, and I just think that this is gonna be, like, game over. You just don't understand angst and yearning and tension until you've read a Dramini fanfiction, and it's really hard to put into words, you guys. This is the year for the Dramini girlies! 2025, mark my words. And then number 5, I'm gonna go with Lightwielder. I think that's what it's gonna be called. Battleslinger was also one of my favorite books of 2024, and Lightwielder, I believe, is gonna be book 2. This had one of the most diabolical, insane, fucked up endings of any book that I've read in recent memory, really. Like, I've never been so thoroughly bamboozled. I was staring at my wall in a state of catatonic shock after I was done reading this one, and the sequel is going to be crazy. There's gonna be some enemies to lovers in the second book in this duology like you've never seen in your life. So, what is a book series that you have started in the past that you want to finish in 2025? Okay, hear me out. I have a problem when it comes to starting series and not finishing them. If a book lulls in any way or loses me along the way, I have a really hard time pushing through and finishing that series. And I think that this year it was really particularly bad for me, but I do want to give this series another try. From Blood and Ash. Listen, I read this book immediately when it came out. Indie published, it was on my Kindle. I devoured it. I've read this first book 3 times. I was so obsessed with it. The male main characters in this, oh my god, I can't even, like, he's a good one. He is a good one. He is in the elite top league of book boyfriends you can possibly get. Only thing is that as this series went on, it progressively lost me more and more and more. I don't know. I've heard that it's worth it to stick with it. And there are some of my favorite series that are completed that I've read that have lulled and that I've kept going and it's been worth it in the end. And maybe that's this one. I think I need to give it like an honest shot. So I might just honestly reread the entire thing and start from scratch and go from there. Another series that I've started and never finished is Zodiac Academy. That one is terrifying because those books are too long. You can't convince me that those are an adequate length. I think those are too long and there's too many POVs and I don't have the attention span for it. However, I did in fact devour the first 4 books and I don't know really why I stopped other than the fact that I was like, oh my god, book 5 is literally longer than me and I'm 5'11". But I did hear like a little spoiler that's very intriguing of like a plot line that happens in the next couple books and I know that I need to just like finish it and read it and I know that I'm missing out on just like so much emotional devastation from this series and that's just like unacceptable to me and I feel like I need to finish it at some point. So the 2 series that I'm hoping to finish this year are From Blood and Ash and Zodiac Academy. Something on your TBR that you're giving up on this year. I might get a lot of heat for this one. I think I'm finally abandoning the hope that I'm ever gonna read the Grisha-verse by Leigh Bardugo. I tried Shadow and Bone. I did. I hated it. Hate is a strong word, okay? I was bored. However, I did like the show until it got canceled. And I do own 6 of Crows, but I also saw a huge spoiler for Crooked Kingdom. And I just don't know if it's worth reading now. A lot of people are gonna be in my comments being like, Emily, what the hell is wrong with you? Read 6 of Crows, read Crooked Kingdom, such a good series. But I don't know if I want to read those without reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy first, and I don't want to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So I just don't know if I'm ever gonna get to it. What is a new series that you want to start this year, as opposed to the ones that I want to like finish that I've already started? As somebody with an attention deficit as prominent as mine, I do find that you have a lot of periods of hyperfixation. There are little things that you find that interest you to the point of obsession for like a period of time. And right now, I'm in my Egyptian mythology phase. I don't know what it is. I binged Moon Knight for like the 3rd time and I am so obsessed. So I really want to read the Jasad Heir. I just think that this book has so much potential to be like a really amazing read and I saw so many good things about it when it first came out. I bought it and then it's just been sitting on my shelf. I think it's about a girl who's the heir to the Jasad kingdom and it got burned to the ground. She works for this like rebel group now and she's forced to like go on a mission to save her kingdom with the enemy's heir, like the enemy kingdom that I think burned hers to the ground. She's forced to work with him and they like fall in love. It's like a star-crossed romance, etc, etc. You had me at Egyptian mythology, really. I didn't even need the other really sick elements of this book to want to read it. And I think the second one comes out this year, so we're gonna be diving in. An author you discovered in 2024 that is now an auto buy going into 2025. For me, this has to go to Adrienne Young. Listen, these books sit in the fiction section at the bookstore. Fiction, not romance, not fantasy, fiction. I usually steer clear of that section like the plague because sometimes I walk into it and I'm like, Emily, really, do you genuinely think you're intellectual enough to read these and enjoy them? Turns out I am. So this book, The Unmaking of June Farrow, is one of the best books that I read last year by far. I think that this was insane. It took me by surprise. The plot was so cool. I was so intrigued. The romance was beautiful. And then I read Spells for Forgetting, which is like one of her older books, and I liked it, but I didn't devour it like The Unmaking. I still, however, really liked it, and it is something that's out of my usual like comfort zone and range of books that I usually read. And I think a couple days ago she just came out with A Sea of Unspoken Things. I really have no idea what this is about, to be honest with you. All I know is that every book that I've read by her has gotten better in order of like the publishing date, so I think that this one hopefully is going to be even better than the last one. I love the way she weaves different elements and genres into her books. I love like the mystery elements in every single one. I love the romance elements. I love the dialogue and the writing style and the setting. The setting is palpable. Like I can smell and taste and feel where the characters are and what they're doing when I'm reading these, and I think that's such a cool thing. I just have no choice but to stan. I'm gonna be buying everything she comes out with from now on. What is a bookish thing that you're leaving in 2024? Neglecting audiobooks. That is so last year. I can't believe I've gone this long without recognizing how amazing audiobooks are. I think that I always just thought that I didn't have what it takes to be an audiobook listener. Like, I am so bad at multitasking, it's not even funny. I think that I always just thought with audiobooks, like, oh, people do them when they're cooking or do them when they're doing something else like a craft, or they do them when they're driving. And I was like, if I listen to an audiobook when I'm driving, I'm going to crash my car and die. And then Magnolia Parks happened to me, and I learned that in fact I do love audiobooks with all my heart. If I'm on a road trip and an audiobook isn't playing, I don't want it. I will say though, I've only listened to audiobooks that are rereads. It's so good that way because I feel like I get a whole new element of a story that I didn't get the first time when I was reading it on paper. And I do still prefer like a hard copy of a book reading it. I think that I absorb it best that way, but I love audiobooks, and it's really, really helpful when you're trying to meet your reading goal and when you're trying to like immersively stay into a book and stay on track with it. And I think that I just need to stop neglecting them. We're leaving that behind. I'm out of my audiobook hater era and I love them now. So what can you expect from this account in 2025? Really just chaos. You can expect a lot of talking at a really alarmingly fast speed because that is just unfortunately the only speed that my brain operates on. I'm gonna be giving a lot of recommendations. I'm hopefully gonna be doing a lot of reading vlogs. That's it, just chaos. Hopefully, also though, consistency. Consistency and chaos, two sides of the coin. That's what we're manifesting this year. How has your reading taste evolved from last year? It hasn't. It actually hasn't evolved since I was 14 and I picked up the Mortal Instruments for the first time and I met Jace Herondale. I'm a creature of habit. I like it here. I've literally seen the Vampire Diaries like 8 times. I don't evolve, but I'm happy. So, I don't know. I read a memoir last year, I guess. That counts for something. And I really liked it. So, who are some booktube content creators who inspire you? I absolutely adore this question, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention my dear friend, Mads. If you don't follow her, what are you doing? First of all, she is genuinely one of my best friends. I'm not just saying that because like we both exist in the bookish content creation space. I met her in London this year when I went traveling for the Taylor Swift concert, and we hit it off so incredibly well that she's actually coming to see me in a couple of weeks. We live on opposite sides of the country up in Canada here, and she's flying to come see me. She is such an inspiration to me because she's so dedicated. She's so knowledgeable on all topics, not just books. She's also just such a beautiful person. Like when I hit 100K on TikTok, she sent me flowers with DoorDash to my house. Again, from across the country. I love her with all of my heart. I think she's so kind. I think she's so welcoming to everybody. I think she has amazing ideas. She's so aesthetically pleasing. She's so good. She's so good at everything she does. It's actually sickening. Mads, if you're watching this, fuck you. But also I love you. Some other content creators that inspire me, obviously Larry. I mentioned her at the beginning of this video. I've never met her obviously, but I think she's such a beautiful person and her personality just like really shines, and she's so organic and genuine and like really paved the way for a lot of bookish content creators that are on this app and are on other platforms to this day. I think that she set the bar really when it comes to like booktube, and I love her. Lexi, or Newly Nova, I just relate to everything that comes out of her mouth. We have such different taste in books, like such different taste in books, but the way her brain works, she is probably the only content creator that I can watch and can take a huge steaming shit on a book that I love, and I will watch it and be like, you know what, that's actually so fair. That's actually so fair that you just said that, because that opinion is very valid. And I think she's really a smart person, and it really comes through in the videos that she makes. They're such good quality. She's so well articulated. And then in the vein of like book recommendations and book taste, a big inspiration for me is Mariana. I just think that she is so funny and candid, and her book recs always slap. Like there is just no doubt that this girl has like some of the most elite book taste you've ever seen in your life when it comes to fantasy romance in particular. Something you want to say to anyone wanting to start a bookish account? This is a terrific question. As I previously mentioned, I am a noob when it comes to this in the grand scheme of things. I literally started my book talk November of 2023, so it's been like just over a year for me now. And I do think if I had to pick one thing to say to people who want to start a booktube or a book talk or a bookstagram, etc., don't let it take the joy out of the actual process of reading for you. Remember why you read what you read. I've found myself reading because I'm like, what am I gonna say to the people about this? What am I gonna say to my followers about this book? What kind of tropes do I want to outline? Is this female main character annoying? Do I like this male main character? Who does he compare to? And I feel like a lot of books that I read start to just blend together, and I stop really fully experiencing them and loving them like I used to before I started making content. And I think that that's such a dangerous hole to go down. You don't have to vlog every single book that you read, and you don't have to film like a really in detail review for every single book that you read. Sometimes you can just like turn the cameras off and read to read. The thoughts are still going to be there when you're done, and if they're not, oh well. You know what I mean? I think one thing when you're starting something like this and you're really dedicating and diving into it, it's just really easy to like lose sight of why you even wanted to start talking about books in the first place and why you love them as much as you do. That sucks when it happens to people, and you shouldn't let that happen. You obviously have to put the work in and be consistent, but I also think that like it's so important to just like not let it take the joy out of reading for you, you know? But that is officially a wrap on my 2025 book tag. I don't know if it was what you were expecting or if I actually adequately answered any of the questions or not. To be honest with you, I kind of just blacked out the entire time I was filming this because I'm so nervous. But you can expect to see me back here, I want to say like every 2 weeks. That's what I'm gunning for right now for YouTube videos. If TikTok does get banned in the US, this is where I will be posting my most in-detail content. I'll put all my other links down in the description, like my Fable book club, my Goodreads, my Bookstagram, etc, etc. I would love to see you there as well. Thanks for watching this incredibly discombobulated, chaotic first attempt at a book tag that I've ever done. Can only go up from here.